welcome to a very special My Virtual Jericho. This afternoon we're in Mount Place, which has for the last 4 months been transformed into a decent public space. With us a very special guest, Sergeant Andy Poole from Thames Valley Police, whose job it is to police Jericho and the rest of North Oxford.
So I'm Andy Poole, I'm a local neighbourhood sergeant. My area covers North Oxford, Jericho, Aberdeen Road and Botley Road, and I'm responsible for a small team of PCs and PCSOs who look after the area, manage the almost like the low level sort of community based issues. If we do have any significant crime trends or peaks in crimes, and we work with other departments within Oxford, such as our local CRD, our priority crime team, should we say. And at the same time, trying to engage with residents and communities to see what issues they have on a personal level. And where we can help. And if not, we'll refer to our partners who we work with quite closely, such as Oxford City Council or our homeless charities, to assist in what issues are on the estates.
What are your big problems in Jericho, or little problems even?
Yeah, I said there's not many big problems in Jericho. It's a nice place to live. We don't have any high volume crime. So at the moment, we're probably more concentrating on the street level offences again. So there is a small homelessness problem in Jericho. There's a couple of rough sleepers. We did have in the summer quite a few I think Romanian rough sleepers. They've now moved on, but we've now got another rough sleeper down there at the moment who we're engaging with one of the local homeless charities. I think he's hoping to move into some rehab at some point. But sometimes comes with that some associated low level drug use, drug dealing. So where there's a crime, obviously we'll act on it, but where it's not, we'll do the referrals to the relevant street service agencies.
I thought that during lockdown, the homeless were given rooms in hotels.
They were, and they're still actually in the YHA at the moment, but I think some of the hotels are going back to normal trading now. And because of the ease down of restrictions, obviously that has fallen off in September. So you may see an increase of homeless people, but as soon as they are out in the street, I know for a fact some of the charities go around, and again, they're trying to work with the local hostels to get them back into a hostel again.
What's the law on rough sleeping?
There is no law that we can enforce as such. What you do have is begging, which we'll focus on, which still comes under the Vagrancy Act. So if we can enforce begging, and we don't just do it straight away, we'll do like a 3-strike warning, so we certainly make them aware. And what we like to see as well is a community impact. Because of the courts at the moment, there's obviously a lot more high profile cases to go through. So we don't want to clog up the courts with just simply begging. So what we'd look to do is see if there's any community impact. So if we have begging in a particular place and it's disrupting a resident or it's disrupting a small business and affecting community harmony, then we'll look to take more positive action, and that will involve taking someone to court for it. But actual rough sleeping, there's no actual offence of rough sleeping. Years ago, we tried to criminalise it with using different parts of law, but then it's more about trying to get them help. And just for example, St Mungo's is a charity. We have a homeless liaison officer. So the key is always to try and get them into accommodation, try and get them the right support they need. Some people choose to be homeless and won't want the support. It's their way of life. But where we can support them, we'd rather take that route as opposed to straight down enforcement. But actual rough sleeping in itself, it's not us. It's up to usually the owner of the land to get a civil injunction. Then they can injunct them to stay away from the area, and then we can then assist with serving that injunction.
What's your advice to people who have come across somebody who's begging from?
We live in a charitable world, and if you want to give something, then that's fine. That's up to you. But just remember, when you do give something, think about what you are giving. Some people are genuinely homeless. Some people genuinely need help. Some people genuinely need support. But don't forget, you do have that small criminal element, which will prey on people and their generosity and will make a small fortune from begging. So my advice is, if you do feel the urge to give something, then I would always stay on the side of food, food packages, drinks, etc. Or if not, donate to homeless services.
But not money, so people can use that for drink and other things.
Yeah, I would steer clear of money because, like I say, you just do not, without standing there and getting a full life story from somebody, you do not know what their experience is, where that money is going to go. And you could just be feeding into a problem, which is their addictions or their exploitation of others through a criminal gain. So they're just there to make money. So I would always stay with food, but if not, you can donate to the charities. There is a lot, especially in Oxford, there's a lot of support for homeless people. There are several charities. Like I say, Oxford opened up all of its hotels at one point during the COVID. The YHA is still being used at the moment to house our homeless. And we have got a lot of support.
What's been the long-term effect of that? Have some of the homeless then come off the streets and wanted to stay off the streets?
I think anywhere where they've got a home where they feel secure and safe, I think that's always going to help as part of their offending problem. And being able to put them up, because if they are on the ground, they're sleeping, first of all, you might attract the people that just want to do them harm. So you attract ASB around them, and they become the victim. If they're out on the street, you also get, again, the people that want to exploit them, that will try and give them free drugs or offer them cash in hand money, and then they'll exploit them through work and their own vulnerabilities. So just being away from the streets and being housed, it protects them no end. I do believe, it's not based on any evidence, I do believe that a lot of them do feel more safe and secure when they're in the accommodation.
Now, you mentioned low-level drug dealing as well in Jericho. Tell us a bit more about that.
Drugs is everywhere in society in some small way or shape, whether it's your casual drug users, your social drug users, and whether it's your chronic people with addictions. And wherever there's a demand, there will always be someone to meet that demand. We in Oxford do run a small proactive team that look to target open drug dealing. We of course have a team that deals with the higher end organised crime element, but we have a small team that targets the open space dealing. And we have seen the occasional people pop up in areas, and where we get that information, which usually always comes from members of the public, and we will send our team in and we will try and locate and identify the person. And when we've got the grounds to do so, they'll be searched, strip searched, and if there's evidence found, they'll be arrested and we'll look to prosecute them.
Now, we're at Mount Place. This used to be quite a well-known place for drug dealing and drug usage.
An example of the work that we can do is information that come from the community that this was being used for drug and drinking. So we sent our team in. Individuals were identified and arrested. One is currently still on remand. But as a part of that, we'll go in and do some follow-up work. So once the person was arrested, we had a look at the area and thought, well, how can we improve it? And one small, not cost-effective, one small way of trying to reduce the drug dealing here was the fitting of a camera. And we've got, and we've got a nice camera up there now, and that acts as a deterrent in itself. It's funded by the council, so the council have a small problem-solving team. So I'll give them a referral. They'll come down and have a look at an area, see what improvements can be made. And one of the simplest ways they have was the camera. And I think that went up in a matter of weeks, about 6 weeks, I think, maybe a bit more.
It did, and it's transformed this area. Is it there forever?
I don't think it's going to be there forever. I think we'd have to look at other avenues to explore the possibility of getting a permanent camera in there, because it'd be the long-term funding. And that would be probably a question for the council. But I suppose if you can evidence where there's been a reduction in demand because of the mere presence of that camera, then you've certainly got a case to lobby and say, well, is there a chance we can have this made permanent?
So who should the people of Jericho lobby to get that camera there?
Well, that is a camera that is installed by the Oxford City Council. Right. So it'd be maybe speak to local council. It may not be a possibility because, as we say, as we have an area like this now, which is almost community policed as well, there's other areas that may need that camera a bit more, and there's no reason it couldn't always come back. So there's another area which is similar to Mount Place, which could do with some crime prevention, could do with a bit of a change of scenery, some target hardening. We may move the camera elsewhere, but certainly for now, the camera is here to stay as far as I'm aware. Not permanently, but it's not going anywhere in the short term.
How temporary is temporary?
I don't have a timescale. Honestly, don't have a timescale.
Now you've been policing this little area for how many years?
I've been in Oxford for 13 years at least, and I've been a neighbourhood officer as a sergeant, certainly for the last couple, and in Jericho particularly for the last maybe about over 12 months now, or a bit longer than that, actually.
Yeah. So what differences have you spotted with the New York stone and everything else?
Well, for Mount Place, for me, it's a nice family place. I mean, it's right by the canal. I'd say that the redesign, the new benches, the new stonework, it's a place where you bring your family now. You could sit down, have a catch up with friends. There's certainly no intimidation factor, I feel. I try and patrol as much as I can or pass by it, and I don't see a place where there's people gathering in groups, there's people acting antisocial. You've got a lot of drink and drug use. I mean, I think you can see behind me in my shop now, you've got another group of people here that has come down to enjoy the space. And I do believe what the community have done, and yourself championing that, has turned a place which was once probably quite hostile to local residents into a nice, safe place to be. And that's what I was saying about the camera, the removal of that camera, because what we've effectively done is you've taken ownership of the problem. As a community, you now own this and you're invested in it. So you're here, you're doing the litter picks, you're speaking to the people that are here. You've spoken to the council, they've got the benches in, the signs up, the camera up, and that sort of community resilience. If we had that across every estate, in Oxford, it obviously relieves the pressure on the police. Yeah, we're not asking you to do our job. We just need, obviously, occasionally support in doing that job.
Enough signs. I mean, there's one behind me about antisocial behaviour. There's one about CCTV over there. Should there be a few more around?
I'm happy with the signage.
Are
I'm
you?
happy with the signage. Yeah.
Do you think people notice them?
I think the people that need to notice it will notice it. I think the people that are going to come and commit ASB, I think if the sign was twice the size, they'd still commit that ASB. I think most people will acknowledge the sign and read it. And I think, yeah, the signage at the moment is enough, and with the camera, and I think it's working, and that is evident in the.
So have you actually arrested anybody in Mount Place in the last 4 or 5 months?
No. Apart from the one case for drugs, and that was based on the community feedback. Yeah. No, nothing. I don't believe actually we've had any calls down there. I think there was mentioned some ASB, but we've not had any actual calls here either.
So as far as you're concerned, there's been zero crime here?
As far as that's been reported, yes.
So that's the result?
Yes.
And how do people keep it going? What would you like to see? How do people do it?
As I've mentioned, with the strong community tie and the buy-in to the area, it's almost not policed by the community, but you're there getting on top of any issues, making sure they call us. I mean, there's plenty of residents around here. It's not a secluded area, so calls to the police with any sort of snippets of ASB, either linking in through yourself. I'm more than happy if it's not a crime in progress, they can contact you and you can just let me know about it. And
define ASB for us, please.
Antisocial behaviour, so it could be anything from noise. So it could be there's a group of adults or children sat down here 11 o'clock at night drinking, not necessarily cause any harm, but they're just very, very loud. They're causing disruption to the residents. They can't sleep. You know, it gets to the point where that is the antisocial. Antisocial could be skateboarding up and down here. People trying to walk past, people are skateboarding. Antisocial behaviour has got a very broad context. What we effectively look at really is it causing harm? Is it causing distress? Is it causing disturbance to effectively the community peace? It could be that you have a protest down here every day. Yeah, I'm not saying protest unlawful, but if there's a protest down every day, it might affect the residents. Is that antisocial? I just think as long as the community peace is kept, people and the residents are happy, that is my standard. As soon as people start getting upset or their way of life is disrupted, then we'll look at each case on its merits.
So drug taking, nitrous oxide, cannabis, is that social behaviour?
Yes, well, cannabis is still illegal. It's still a controlled drug. So yes, 100% cannabis smoking down here. The nitrous oxide taken because you can still deal that, even though you can buy it legitimately. If you're in possession of lots, it's still an offence. So yeah, I would consider that antisocial behaviour, definitely.
So if somebody sees somebody down here with nitrous oxide canisters, they should possibly report it?
Yeah, 100%, because even though an officer may not be down here straight away, may not be down here for 2 or 3 days, it comes through to our neighbourhood inbox, which we have like an email inbox. So once that call is made, control room will triage that call. If it needs an immediate or urgent response, it will go to response officers. If not, they send us a notification and we will come down here at some point. But if we start to build that picture, so it's happening regularly, then we'll start to adjust our patrolling, we'll start to adjust our targeted approach, and we'll look to identify the people involved. And if we can, we'll take criminal action. If not, we can certainly start to move them on with words of advice and disrupt their behaviour.
Some people say, you know, we've been NIMBY, that actually we've just pushed the problem elsewhere. Have we?
Well, I've not seen that in the evidence that I've had. It may well have been, yes, because whenever you do any sort of disruption or targeted area, there is always an element of displacement. But I think the target area for here was mainly the alcohol-related ASB. There's always been spots around Oxford City where there will be alcohol-related ASB. Yes, probably has it been displaced, but certainly on my neighbourhood, I've not seen an increase, for example, down on the Botley Road or an increase.
I haven't gone to Dawson Place?
No, I've not had any of the calls from elsewhere.
Nowhere else in Jericho haven't found?
I've certainly not seen a displacement in Jericho.
So it's driven it out of Jericho, it's taking it out of Jericho?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Dream on. What would you like to see this place look like in a year or so's time?
As it is now, to be honest.
What about planting and trees?
I'm not a horticulturist. However, the way it looks now, it's maintained. It looks tidy. It looks loved. It looks looked after.
Yeah.
From an ASB point of view, from a crime prevention point of view, obviously I wouldn't want to see too much foliage, too much hanging over, so it makes it a dark, secluded place again. I think we've got lighting here anyway at night time. But as it looks now, it's clean, tidy. It looks like a nice place to come and sit. That is what I'd like to see. Exactly the same here in a year's time.
What about things like fly tipping and dumping waste in those domestic waste in those bins. What's the law on that?
I'd have to double check. Obviously, fly tipping is unlawful, but it's not something we deal with specifically. It's the council that would look for that, but we work with the council. So we've got very good times with the council. If that was occurring, I know the council would take it seriously. We would assist them in gathering evidence on who was doing it, and they would look to prosecute any people that were found doing it.
So somebody who comes down there with 3 domestic bags and dumps it there, that's fly tipping outside the bin.
Yeah, in theory, yeah, because we've got waste collection, haven't we?
Yeah, so
That's no different to me to just dumping it down there in the trees behind us, just because they put it next to the bin. And that low-level offence could be just sorted with words of advice. It may be knowledge that maybe they don't realise what they're doing is an actual offence. So it could just be a simple word of advice in their ear, just to say, look, what you're doing could constitute an offence. You know, if you're having troubles with your refuge, maybe it's something. There may be a wider issue there. We don't know, but yeah.
So information is power in that. People should know that actually. I mean, there's this bin and there's one by Ali's as well, where people dump domestic rubbish. They should know that actually that's A, antisocial, and B, probably illegal.
Yes.
What are the sanctions for it?
I believe it starts with a fine.
£100?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. It's not my area of expertise. Right. It's something I know. The council website is very good. You can just put fly tip in their search engine and it will come up. And I believe they've even got like contact details there. They've got a proactive team that will come out and assess it.
And they actually go through bags then and find out.
In certain cases, yeah.
And find out who it is.
Certainly.
Winter's coming. Do you expect any crime to return to Mount Place?
The only time we look at it is with the nights drawing in. It depends what the lighting is here in the evening, but usually when it gets colder and the rain sets in, it actually helps us as it pushes people off the streets. It pushes people to go back indoors again. When it's nice, we want to sit outside. When it's cold, we want to sit in front of a fire. So I don't envisage the crime going up. And what we will look at though, certainly from my point of view, is the lighting around here, because like I say, going back to drugs again, people like secluded areas, people like darkened areas, people like areas where they've got quick access to get away, to move away. So we will certainly always keep this in the back of our mind, but I don't envisage any extra problems.
Camera up here, does it spot us?
I'd have to double check the view because it's managed by the council.
Where's it connected to?
I believe it's powered on the premise. Huh?
No, but
it's the council operator. It's not a live feed that I can access now.
No, okay, but what I'm saying is, if somebody's drug taken down there, will they be seen on that camera as far as you know?
I have to double check with Dan on that one.
Okay, and but finally, I mean, we've sort of gone through the field. What messages have you got for people of Jericho in terms of, well, let's say about COVID, for example? What's the Thames Valley view on that one on gatherings?
With any aspects of the entire start to finish of the pandemic, we've always tried to encourage and educate people, as opposed to taking enforcement action. We want to try and make sure people understand the rules. It is very complicated. The rules are changing quite regularly, and we understand some people just haven't got a clue what they're allowed and what they're not allowed to do. I mean, I know it has been said, but the overriding theme that we've heard all the time is just common sense. I mean, at the moment, we know it's the rule of 6. 6 persons inside, 6 persons outside, and it's taking those extra precautions. If you are vulnerable, make sure you mask up, make sure your hygiene is spot on. If you are going out in a group and you can't social distance, again, the PPE, the masks it's got to be a must, because you obviously we've got to dampen the curve. From a police point of view, neighbourhood, which is what we are going to start to actively be out on patrol again now, and we're going to be going to all the COVID-related jobs. I would encourage any residents, any people that are in the community, if they have any concerns, please call us, and you may get just a phone call or you may get a visit from the neighbourhood officer. And again, we're not looking to fine people, we're not looking to jump up and down on people, we're looking to educate. But if it gets to that point where we can't educate people anymore, then yes, of course, we will come out and we will issue the fines.
I mean, the Home Secretary said the other day that people should snitch on their neighbours. Did she not?
She did, yeah, and ultimately, the whole reason we're in lockdown, or I think Lancashire's gone back in lockdown again, is because people are ignoring the rules and we are seeing a spike in the cases. And if we don't want a national lockdown, we all have to stick by the rules. And if people can't stick by the rules and they don't understand it after we've told them what the rules are, then maybe the only way to encourage people is to fine them. But again, when they say about snitching on the neighbours, that's actually what we want in general in terms of policing anyway. Because for many, a good neighbourhood officer is only as good as the residents that are in that neighbourhood, because you get all your information from your community feedback. All of our work, all of our patrols, all of our taskings is usually done from community-led intelligence. So as a neighbourhood sergeant, I would encourage any person living in Jericho, if they have any concerns about anything, crime-related, antisocial behaviour-related, just to either report it on the website or to call 101, and we will come out and look at it. Maybe it's not a case for us, and we can then direct them to the right agency. But if it is something for us, we will look at anything, no matter how small it is, and our approach will be proportionate to it. However, without that community feedback, it's very hard for us to do our job.
Now, you've got a CPSO in Jericho, and Claire, how do people deal? How do you get in touch with her? How do you report things to her?
Well, all of our details are on the Thames Valley website. I think they've taken up individual officers now, but you can give information to the website through there. So Claire works for me, and she's your PCSO for Jericho. Claire's out and about when she's on duty most days. You'll see her out and about. You can simply approach her and ask her. But again, failing that, either on the website or 101, and just ask to speak to your local PCSO, and they will send that email to her. And then when she's back on duty, she'll look at it and make contact.
So she should be your first point of contact.
Yeah, for your low-level community-based information. Yeah. Again, if it's a crime in progress, or if it's something that requires an immediate response, 999 or 101, and that will get people here a lot quicker. But if it's a general inquiry, if it's a general concern, yeah, just the website, and then Claire will be your first point of call.
And are you worried about people bothering you by email?
No, not really. No, because at the end of the day, I'd rather have someone contact me about a problem than sit on that problem and not say anything. And an email, I can reply in a couple of words, or if I'm out on patrol, I can just come and visit. But no, I have no problems with emails. I get a lot of emails every day.
Some of them from me.
Yeah, but it's a channel of communication. I understand people's frustrations sometimes when they have to try and phone the police, or they might not have access to or the time to go on the website. But just a simple point of contact with me is no problem. I'll reply to all emails and get around to it as soon as I can. And if it helps relieve a problem, or if it helps make someone feel a bit more relaxed, that they can contact the police, and yeah, I'm happy with that.
And really, the last question: what's your message for the law-abiding people of Jericho?
It is a lovely part of Oxford, one of my favourite parts. Please keep calling us with any problems you have. Don't be concerned. The crime here is very low. It's a very nice, safe place to live. You have a dedicated neighbourhood team that will address any of your concerns. And if at the end of the day you don't never call the police, then you live in a nice area, and may that be the case for a long time to come.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy, for your time this morning, this afternoon. Remember, if you have any problems, you want to report to the police, there are two numbers, 101 and 999, or if you can, try and find the community support officer, who's called Claire. You'll see her riding around on a bicycle.